All right, so if you would introduce yourself to our readers.
I am Clint Bolick. I am the litigation director at the Goldwater Institute in Phoenix.
Okay, now in 2010, the legislative session here in Idaho, they passed the Idaho Health Freedom Act, which you were kind of the man behind, sort of. Could you explain your involvement in the Health Freedom Act?
Well, a couple of years ago, I was approached by an orthopedist, Eric Novak, who was very concerned about what was coming down the road. And at that time, very few people were really concerned about their health insurance or that there would be some sort of massive national takeover. And he proposed the idea of a healthcare freedom act that would protect people in Arizona against the coming onslaught. It went to the ballot in 2008. Our then governor, now Homeland Security Secretary Janet Napolitano, fought against it furiously, and it lost by less than half of 1% of the vote. It was then brought back this year, and it became a model piece of legislation now that everyone is worried about what's going on in Washington, D.C., and I'm really delighted that Idaho has passed this law.
Okay, now, who chose where the lawsuit, the class action lawsuit, was actually going to be presented? Was that you, or was that one of the attorneys general? Or?
No, we are not involved in that particular lawsuit. A group of attorneys general got together. They brought in a team of Washington lawyers, some really terrific lawyers, and decided that the first salvo against Obamacare would be filed in the Northern District of Florida. Some very conservative judges there, and they're in the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals, a pretty conservative circuit, a great team, a great complaint. So that's the first lawsuit. Now there are several others, and we are going to file a lawsuit in Arizona in the next month or so.
Your own lawsuit against Obamacare?
Yes.
Is it going to be different than the ones that have already been filed? Or
yes. Yes.
Why the separate lawsuit?
Well, basically, anytime you're suing the federal government, it's an uphill battle. And this is a massive law with lots of oppressive features. And our view is that, if we can't kill this thing off in one fell swoop, we hope to subject it to death by 1,000 cuts. And the more theories, the more injuries that you show from various features of the bill, the better. And also, the more lawsuits there are, the more likely that one of them will end up in the United States Supreme Court. So in this instance, literally, it's the more the merrier.
Now you said you have to show injury in your lawsuit. What type of injuries are you going to show in the Arizona lawsuit?
Actually, three types of injuries, two of which are present in the other lawsuits, but one of which is going to be completely new. We are going to show that the state itself is injured because the Obamacare model inflicts new costs upon the states and limits their autonomy over health insurance, which has traditionally been a state prerogative rather than a federal prerogative. Secondly, and this is common to most of the lawsuits, we'll show that individuals who are subjected to the individual mandate will have all sorts of bad things happen to them if they choose not to be insured, or if they choose an insurance that is not the one that's mandated by the federal government. They'll be subjected to massive fines. It limits their choices, and this is actually unique to our lawsuit. It invades their privacy because it forces them to surrender their medical information. Finally, and this is a unique feature of our lawsuit, we are alleging injury for both members of the state legislature and members of our congressional delegation as legislators, because Obamacare takes decisions that are normally entrusted to the legislative process and puts them in the executive branch through new government agencies. And our courts have recognized that legislators, particularly state legislators, need to be free and independent actors, and Obamacare essentially negates that role.
Okay.